Okay, today I want to talk to you about what I call the freight broker business killer. And the reason why I call it that is because that's exactly what it does. It kills the vision, the goal, the aspirations, the business of the freight broker business owner before he can ever get his business out of the starting gate. And I want for more of us to be able to get around this particular obstacle and be successful in business, because the vast majority of new freight brokers fail because of this very thing. What am I talking about here? What is this killer? Well, this killer is called personal debt. And you might wonder, how can personal debt kill my business? Well, very easily. Let me show you a scenario here. Let's say that at the end of the month, after you've paid yourself and paid your bills, you have $300 remaining. And now you're looking at this wonderful business opportunity that you've been interested in for a long time called the freight broker business, and you're ready to go. Now, what you want to take a look at and understand is that this business is going to cost you an expense every single month in order to operate it. It's going to cost you something to be able to operate that business. A new freight broker business usually runs about $750 to $1,000 per month to operate that new business. You got to have, TMS, load boards, surety bond, insurance, things such as that. It's going to cost a monthly cost in order to operate. So we have to have the funds in place in order to be able to pay for those things. Now, when we look back at what we said earlier, we only have about $300 left at the end of the month. So where is the additional money going to come from to fund our business? Some people would say, hey, I'm not going to need any additional money from my personal finances because I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to get my business into a position where it can finance itself. It can pay its own bills. And that sounds good, it briefs well, but in most cases, it doesn't happen that way. It takes some time before we can get the business to be able to fund itself, to take care of its own expenses. We just want to get to a point where we can make consistent income. Let's say we shoot for, $500 a month. Then we want to get to the point where it can operate on its own and provide for itself. But it's going to take some time to get there. And what do we do in the meantime? How do we bridge that gap? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to give you some things that you can do prior to starting your business that's going to put you in a much better position than if you didn't do these things before starting. So number one, let's look at this one. Start to get a very good picture of what your financial situation looks like. Understand your numbers intimately. Know exactly what comes into your household and what goes out of your household. When we understand these numbers, then we can make adjustments. We can start to alleviate some of the unnecessary debt, cut those things away so that we can free up more money. But when we don't have a good understanding of those numbers, what we start to do is fool ourselves into thinking that we have more than we actually have. So get a good idea of what you have coming in and going out of your household. Number two, I think you should at least consider saving, having on hand 6 months of operating expenses before you get started in your business. Now, what this is going to allow for you to do is to give you some resources to tap just in case you go through some tough times. And I can guarantee you that in a freight broker business, you're going to go through some tough times when you first get started. And if you have those resources to tap, it's going to put you in a much better situation than you would if you didn't have them to tap in the event that things get rocky. So take some time, save some money before you get started, at least 3 to 6 months of operating expenses. And that way you have something to fall back on when times get tough. The third thing that I want you to take a look at is setting some financial goals. A lot of times what happens when we first get started is that we don't pay the attention that's necessary to the numbers. Now, yes, I always talk about learning first, learning what you need to know in order so that you can make money. And I still stand by that. That's important. But we cannot just bypass the financial aspect. We need to have an idea of what we want to make, because when we have that in our minds, now we have a target to go after. We have something to shoot for. And if you shoot a little bit to the left or right of your target, now you can make an adjustment. But if you don't have anything you're shooting for, you're just shooting in the dark, then you don't know where you're hitting in order to make the adjustment. So let's set some real numbers as to what we want to earn. As I mentioned earlier, you may want to say, hey, I want to get to the point where I'm earning $500 a month consistently. Imagine what that would do for your personal financial situation if you could have $500 additional coming in every single month that you can depend on from your business. And then you want to graduate from that point and say, now what I want to do is get my business to the point where it's financing its own expenses, where it can take care of itself. And then after you get to that point, you say, hey, now I want to get to the point where my business is able to take care of me and my family. And do that in stages, but we must set goals so that we have something to shoot for. And then last but not least, definitely do this if you don't do any other. Start to decrease your overall debt. Start downsizing debt. There are so many things that when I started to look at my overall financial situation, I started to see things that I could go in and completely eliminate, and other things that I could go in and cut down and trim down some so it wouldn't be such a financial burden. Because when we look at our overall lifestyle and how much we're paying for that lifestyle, what we'll find a lot of times is that we're paying money for things that we don't need. So if you can find places where you can cut down your debt, that's going to be very beneficial when it comes down to building a successful business that you're interested in building. So get a good picture of your finances. Take a look at your current situation and make the right plan so that you set yourself up for success and not failure, and avoid what most freight broker business owners fall into, and that's not having enough funding to push your business through the tough times. So I wanted to share this with you. I hope this has been helpful. If you decide to use some of this stuff to further your own business, that's great. If you only decide to use one or two things, that's great. That's up to you. I personally think if you didn't do anything other than downsizing the debt, that would put you in a much better situation than it would if you didn't do that. So I hope this video has been helpful. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.